Welcome to the Squared Circle Pit with your host, Rob Pasbani.
Now entering the Squared Circle Pit, he is the most metalhead in pro wrestling. We have Ozzy Kilmeister. Ozzy, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
Circle Pit.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
You know, this show is all about the intersection of rock and pro wrestling. It does not take too long to figure out that you belong at said intersection. Let's start with the name, Ozzy Kilmeister. In the great vein of wrestlers like Darby Allin, you take some names of two icons that you enjoy. How did you? I mean, I know how you came up with it, but like, how did the inspiration hit?
So, ironically, when I was a kid, because my shoot name is Paul, right? That's like my legal name, but my nickname has always been Ozzy. That's just how I've always been as a kid. And then when I joined wrestling, I went through a couple of ideas and nothing really stuck because it wasn't me. I was trying to be something that I wasn't. I was trying to be a poser, just how it is. But when I realized, oh man, I'll just call myself Ozzy. And I'm, the stomach tattoo is real, brother. It doesn't get painted on. I was like, I'm going to put together Ozzy and Lemmy because it's the two greatest people in metal, not even just influences. Just when you think of Lemmy Kilmister and you think of Ozzy Osbourne, give me two other names that are bigger than them in metal. You know what I mean?
Agreed. So what came to you first, heavy metal or pro wrestling?
Technically wrestling. First match I ever saw I was like 7 or 8 years old, and it was actually my coach Gangrel teaming with Christian versus Kane and X-Pac for the tag titles on Raw way back when. But the first album I ever listened to, I was like probably 9 or 10, and it was Injustice for All by Metallica.
Nice. So wrestling came first. So how did you discover wrestling? Were you just channel flipping? Did you have a friend or relative?
So I was sitting in the living room with my brother and my dad, and they were watching wrestling. I was playing Pokemon on the floor on my Game Boy, and I looked up and I saw it, and that was it. That's
all you needed. You were hooked.
That's all I needed. I was like, Kane specifically was like, holy shit, look at this guy. He's a monster. And that's from there, it was just Gangrel, the Brood, Hardy Boys. Got a Hardy Boys tattoo.
Oh, wow.
Triple H, man. Stone Cold and Rock were cool, but they were always the top in my eyes. I never, you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't really beat them at that time.
So those were your guys, the people you just mentioned, or did you have like people that you?
I mean, as an adult, it's a pretty long list, but like AJ Styles is definitely around there just because he's incredible and he's not 6 foot tall like myself. I'm 5'6", and do a lot of stuff that people don't expect me to do. Jeff Hardy, huge inspiration. I mean, Gangrel was always an inspiration. I did an Impaler as a backyarder. It was just how it went. And that was obviously way before I was coached by him. So it's just an ironic thing in my life. There's a lot of, RVD. I go on for a while. Kevin Owens, Sting. I could just sit here. Undertaker is probably the overreaching one. Undertaker is above wrestling at this point.
So, and who played And Justice for All for you?
My brother. He gave me his CD. It was he gave me 3 CDs. He gave me And Justice for All, Nimrod by Green Day, and Astro Creeps 2000 by White Zombie. Those were the first 3 albums.
That's a good brother.
Right? Oh, man. He really is. Really is.
That's great. So I'm guessing you and your brother bonded over music and pro wrestling as well. Did you end up like going to shows and stuff?
We never actually got to go to a wrestling show together, unfortunately, or just a show together, unfortunately. But he's gotten to come out to watch me wrestle. He actually got to come out and see me wrestle Gangrel last month in Kissimmee. So that was a cool full circle type of thing because he was there when I first saw it and he was on the TV. So it's just a crazy full circle thing that's happened in my life that I'm just beyond grateful for. I don't think I deserve it, but we would wrestle because I lived in New Jersey when I was first born. So I moved to Florida when I was like 9 or 10. We used to wrestle in the basement, and him and his friend would like do a 3D on the mattress and give me a tombstone and all this other stuff. So my brother's probably the reason I am why I am in totality. Like between the music and the wrestling, like that's 80% of my character. And then like Pokemon, like 10%.
Is your brother still into wrestling and metal, or has he moved on? to the
he's
poser
more
life.
never a poser. Not my brother. No, he's more into rap. He listens to a couple of things, but when he gave me those albums, he was getting out of rock and metal and going into like 50 Cent, Eminem, and everything. But he's a pisser. He's a pisser.
So at what point did you decide that you wanted to pursue pro wrestling? Did you have like a moment where it all clicked?
Literally, like from that first moment on, I was the kid at school that was jumping off of stairs and trying to do wrestling moves on my friends, and everybody knew me for that throughout like high school. And then when I graduated, I had plans to move to, I think it was Pennsylvania or Philadelphia, I can't remember, but wherever ROH had set their school up at the time. This is 2010. It was like Delirious and Matt Seidel as head coaches. I had my scholarship ready to go. I had a place to live. I had a job, everything. I was going to move there and start wrestling at 18. That didn't happen. I had to stay and help my family out. And then wrestling kind of just fell behind everything else and family priorities and etc. And then I woke up one day and I didn't have anything. I was squatting in my apartment. I had no money. I had no job. Very low will to live. And I was watching the Cruiserweight Classic on my phone, which was plugged into a charger that went outside of my door to the building so I could steal their electric so I could watch something. And then I was stealing Wi-Fi from somebody above me. Thank God the water never got turned off. But I had a moment where I was like, it's either I'm going to just be completely done and just that's it, or I'm going to give this a shot. I'm really glad I gave it a shot because almost 8 years later, I'm really happy with how far I've gotten and how far I can get.
That's awesome, man. So how did you, so basically you're saying from the moment you first laid eyes on pro wrestling, you were like, this is what I want to do. You did like a bunch of backyard wrestling. And then you had this moment where you were down and you were like, well, what do I have to lose? Right.
Literally.
Yeah. And so how did you find Gangrel? You were trained by Gangrel initially, correct?
And he's still every day, Monday through Thursday, whenever I can make it to class, he's still my coach. He still teaches me and talks to me and guides me and gets me through life too, not even outside of wrestling. So I broke into business the right way, the old school way. I just showed up to shows and I started helping with the ring. And at those shows and other subsequent shows, I just was going around with.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, which shows were these? Like, where was this? Yeah,
this was a company. I think I don't know what it's called now, but it was Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling. They were out of Melbourne and Coco. Nothing really bad to say about those guys. It was a good opportunity. That's where I met Gangrel backstage. I had a spot on the show after a couple of months of paying my dues, and they let me do something, and I got hit with somebody's finisher, and I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know how to do it because I wasn't trained. I didn't know how to do fucking anything. So I do this move, and I was a multiple guy. So like I did the ring, I did music, I did security, whatever. I've done every side job in wrestling already before I had even started training. And I do the move, and security helps me to the sound booth, which is in front of all of the audience. And I'm supposed to just play music and act like I'm not dead and I didn't just get my face stumped into the ground. And the guy next to me who's helping me says something, it pops me. I start laughing. Everybody sees me laugh. Jesse Neal, I don't know if you know Jesse Neal from TNA and other promotions. He comes from the back, grabs me with my hair, lifts me off the ground, drags me to the bat, and is like, I can't believe you just did that. You just blew that guy's finish. You owe him a beer, blah, 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 blah. He's ripping into me. This is, again, the first spot I've ever had, and I fucked it up. And I was like, all right, well, that's it. That's the end of my career before it even starts. And I'm sitting in the back, and I'm like, I'm in just that, man. I'm like, this is awful. And I'm sitting there, and Gangrel comes over, and he's like, hey, what the fuck is your problem? Why are you so sad? And I was like, well, I'm not trained. I didn't do the spot right, and I don't think I'm gonna get another chance. And he's like, you didn't fuck up. You don't know what you're doing, but you now know not to do that again, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, you didn't fuck up. You learn. As long as you have the capacity to learn, you will go far in this business. He did not know me. I think I said hi to him and shook his hand, and that was it. And then he comes over and drops this, life bomb on me. And then he's like, I have a school. I just opened it a year ago. Come train with me. I'll train you how to wrestle, and then you won't feel like this. And
Oh, wow.
since then, I'm very, very honored and privileged. I've been able to go to his wedding. I spend time with him and get to talk with him outside of stuff with wrestling. Like he has a podcast called Fangin' and Bangin' Gangrel. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Gangrel, obviously. If you check that out and you listen to the stories that he says, I got to listen to those stories from him in a just me and him in the school warming up. Like I got to learn all this stuff about him before that, and that was really cool too. I cherish that those moments, those hours and hours I would spend before class started. I would leave very early from where I lived because I still, even in CCW, I live farther away from the school than anybody else. An hour and a half, 2 hours. I get there 2 hours early and I sit and I talk with Gangrel and I learn. This was back in the day, but I was leaving my house at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Class doesn't start till 7. And I was getting there at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and we would just sit there and talk, and I would get stuff ready. I'd vacuum, whatever it was. But that
You were just dedicated.
that kind of stuff, I attribute that to why I am in the position I'm in wrestling and in life at this point.
That's really cool. And so tell me about how you developed this character. I'm guessing you wanted your character to be yourself.
Yep. It's
turned up to 11 or as they
exactly. And that's what the best people in wrestling say. It's you just turned up to 11. I got this stomach tattoo, mosh, when I was 17 years old. I am 32 now. I have been in probably about the same amount of matches as I have mosh pits, and it's like over 300. So there's a lot of stuff in there. But like when I was, I think freshman year, I started going to shows. So like when I was like 13, 14, I started going to metal shows and like concerts and Mayhem.
what was your first concert?
First ever concert, realistically, out of what my mom brought me to one time, which was a country show, which I don't remember, thank God, was the first Mayhem, which was
amazing.
Slipknot as headliner. First time I saw Cannibal Corpse was the first time I saw Slipknot.
Mastodon, I believe. Dragon Force.
Whitechapel, Black Dahlia Murder, Suicide Silence with Mitch.
I think the Red Chord was on there.
It was the show was ridiculous.
That's a great way to pop your metal cherry.
After that, I literally got this tattoo. That was like, oh, this is what I do now. This is what I do now.
Was it at all inspired by Trevor from Black Dahlia? Because obviously he has his heartburn tattoo.
Yes, it was. I was like, oh, that's cool. I designed this myself because I do Photoshop and graphic and stuff. So if you look on YouTube and just look at like the dates of these shows, you'll see me in the video. Like you'll see me just woo. Like I have a bunch of videos saved on a playlist of Wall of Deaths where I'm standing in the middle, whether it's at Mayhem, House of Blues of Municipal Waste, Winds of Plague, which is one of my favorite bands. I have a tattoo on the back of my leg that's a Winds of Plague tribute piece.
So this isn't just you're living the gimmick, as they say. Yeah. You are a mosher.
Like if you know Cannibal Corpse, then so Corpse Grinder will always say on stage, you can try to headbang as fast as me and try to keep up, but you will fail. And I take that to heart every time, and I try to keep up with him. And subsequently, nobody can really keep up with me. That's why I come out my entrance. That's my thing, man. Like headbanging, that's just. You go and see Cannibal Corpse, you got a 45-minute set, man. You got to fucking, you got to be ready for that.
Tell me about your entrance. What's your entrance music and what do you do?
So I was in a band for a small amount of time. Again, not a poser. I was a vocalist. I didn't really do anything crazy, worthy of note. Probably the best thing I did was play with Whitechapel, play with Body Stature, and play with Spite. A couple other little things, but again, nothing of note. The band music that plays when I do my entrance is a band that I played with and toured with, and they're friends of mine called Clover. They're from Cuba. And if anybody knows anything about Cuba, metal does not come from Cuba. You can't play metal in Cuba. It's basically illegal. They showed me a video of them when they came over to America, of them playing to 7,000 people in the streets. Just
in Cuba.
They're on pallets. They're literally on pallets. They don't have a stage. They're just on pallets in the middle of the road, playing to thousands of fucking people. Really cool guys. They were like, I was like, I want to use this song because I want to represent you guys. I want to, blah, 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 blah. I love this song. I've done it live with them too. Like I've done vocals on it live. I was a vocalist and they just let me take it. And that's really the end of that. It's
So
not
then,
music
do
to
you just
anybody else.
mosh to the ring, basically, or do you?
Yeah, I come out, I headbang, and then I literally just start moshing. Plenty of entrance videos all over YouTube and etc. I also, not to go off track, there's a guy who I just want to put over real quick who does media and video and does all this stuff. His name's Roland. His gimmick is Tusslemania. I'm sure you've seen Wrestling Revolver and some of CCW's stuff, and it just has a really high def quality. It's a 4K shoot, I think, maybe 8K. I'm not sure. I don't know his settings, but he's one of the greatest media and people in wrestling that I've met so far. And I've met a lot of people. But there's video of my entrance with his great 4K, 8K, whatever it is. You can use that footage if you want. I'm just
Cool.
But aside from that, yeah, man, I come out and I had the idea one day to where I want to make my entrance different and I want to hit the hard cam. So I was like, I'm just going to run and launch myself into the middle rope. And that's what's going to stop me from leaving the ring. And that has become my entrance. I run and I headbang, I jump through the middle rope and I position myself there. And then I windmill right there. A lot of the stuff I do, my moves and stuff, like I actually I start like boom. And then I forearm somebody.
Yeah, so some of your moves I love are named after metal songs, metal artists, or so. Okay, I love that you have a discus elbow that you call the crowd killer, because this is the only scenario, a wrestling match, where crowd killing, as it is known, is appropriate.
Yeah, I throw spin kicks too sometimes. It's a little more dangerous, so I try not to completely murder anybody. But yeah, I'll tell you a story too. My finishing move. People throw finishing move around a lot. Nobody's kicked out of this move. It's an actual finishing move. I used it this past weekend and it was broken up, but that is the only time it has never guaranteed me a win. You know Kevin Sullivan. Okay.
Of course.
We were very lucky to have Kevin Sullivan throw his wisdom into CCW and CWF. And we get to learn from him. And he was very gracious and watched me wrestle and gave me the idea to do a top rope flying headbutt, but while they're standing.
Nice.
Instead of Chris Benoit.
Because that was one of his finishers, I believe, was a flying headbutt.
He would do the flying headbutt and they would be on the ground. When I do it, they're standing. So I basically jump off the top rope and drive my head straight into their chest.
Nice.
And that I owe him a lot to that, because that was his general idea, and I took it and I molded it and ran with it, and it's garnered me great success, and I've never seen anybody else do it, so I'm going to keep it that way. Don't be a poser. Don't take my move, anybody watching you. Watch a lot of wrestling.
That's great. So how was it? You mentioned Kevin Sullivan. That's really cool. Kevin Sullivan, the dude had a fucking insane satanic gimmick. In the 80s in Florida, when people were like crazy about that stuff. What's it been like? What was it like talking to him? What kind of advice did he impart on you? And is he a metalhead, or you didn't talk about it?
I would say maybe, but he came in, he did a seminar the one time, and then he did, again, I don't know exacts, but he put Coastal Championship Wrestling over, said it was one of the greatest training facilities and companies around, which I wholeheartedly believe. And he decided to stick around, and we're doing a championship wrestling from Florida. It's Coastal Championship Wrestling presents CWF. He is at the helm, as well as other people. That's
cool.
It's because it's before my time. I'm only 32, but like watching so much wrestling and watching the history and matches and etc., watching all that CWF stuff and documentaries and stuff around it is just, it's so cool to be a part of a modern day version of it and to learn from the guy that was there in the original. He's just given me a lot of great advice of just don't worry about, what people think about your height, what people think about your look. Have a bigger tank, work harder, do more, be crazier. He gave me a lot of advice just to keep going,
That's cool.
He reaffirmed that I was on the right path. And that's
nice.
what's happening a lot recently. I've had a lot of seminars recently with a lot of people, I'm not going to drop any names, but people that are top of the industry, and I keep getting good advice and good feedback. So I know I'm on the right path. And it's guys like Kevin Sullivan and Gangrel that got me to where I am now, where I wouldn't be on the right path if it wasn't for their guidance.
What would you say are your future goals with pro wrestling?
My immediate goal is to win tag team gold with my partner Skits. We are Monster Mosh,
Nice.
most metal freak show in pro wrestling. Currently in CCW Coastal Championship Wrestling, the Crown, Leonis and Maximus Khan, who are just monsters, no pun intended, have been CCW tag team champions for over 500 days. They have beaten everybody and anybody that has come across them, including me and Skits, multiple times, unfortunately. And I wholeheartedly believe with the support of the fans and everything that we're doing that we will be tag team champions of CCW shortly, hopefully. But outside of that, my own personal goals, stacking up belts, start winning belts, because I've been doing this wrestling for almost 6 years now. And people are starting to know who I am and they're starting to understand, but a lot of people still don't get it. And a lot of people still don't know who I am. And I want to change that. Stuff like this really helps. So I appreciate it. But man, some heavyweight titles, some bigger matches. I have a couple of opponents in my mind, like Matthew Justice, very metal. Love that guy. Warhorse, who is slowly turning into a fucking poser. Wanted to mosh him for a long time. Lince Dorado, who is just fantastic. I just want to see how I stack up against him. There's a lot of people, man. There's a lot of people I want to get in the ring with.
That's cool, man. And I see that you've made some TV appearances. You did a shot with MLW a few times, with NWA, and with Total Nonstop
TNA.
Action as well. And what was that like? How was that like doing a match for television as opposed to just a match, for the live crowd? Certainly it might be streaming, but your focus
Right.
is more on the live crowd than the TV taping aspect of it.
Right.
Which is here.
And the beautiful thing about how we're trained at CCW and through Gangrel is we're trained for TV. So
Nice.
I've never wrestled for not TV, so like I follow my times, I slow down, I pace myself, just the little things that you have to do to do this the right way. TNA though was more hands-on. We had Tommy Dreamer, Brian Myers, and I think one other person were our producers. And it was me and 8 other guys versus W. Morrissey, Big Cass, at TNA in a 9-on-1 handicap match where he subsequently destroyed all of us. Just seeing how they put everything together and seeing how things line up and stuff you have to keep in mind for TV because they do a show, they shoot for a couple of weeks at a time, and then those air. So it's like, we're going to do this, or we're going to do this promo afterwards because this promo is going to air beforehand. And just seeing just how to put everything together. Because at the end of the day, once my body gives out, I want to be a producer. I want to,
You
be
want to work
behind the scenes. Yeah, like that's because I do a little bit of that now. And I show you this much, and that's all. That's it, right? But without tooting my own horn, I have a very good mind for wrestling. All I do is watch wrestling. If I pulled my girlfriend on here, she could just be like, yeah, we come home every night and we don't watch anything else besides wrestling. Like I'll throw an old pay-per-view on, I'll throw a documentary on, whatever it is. So yeah, at the end of the day, that's the goal. When
Are you watching like the modern TV stuff? Like, do you keep up with AEW and WWE every week?
Yeah, I try. I get highlights and stuff. I try to keep up the best I can. I watch a lot more old wrestling. I watch a lot of old Japan, a lot of Kobashi, a lot of Masawa. I like deathmatch stuff. I don't really watch a lot of deathmatch stuff. I've been in death matches. I'd rather be in a death match than watch a death match. I don't know. I'm weird. It's a weird twist, because you go so long trying to learn everything physically. The mental aspect is something that people don't even think about, like not anybody, but anybody could pay money, sign up and take a bump, because I've seen it. And that's where posers comes from. At GWA, I watched people drop the entire 25, 3,000, whatever it was. I watched them come in, do a roll, take one bump, and they're like, oh no, it hurts too much. I can't do this. One single bump. and they're like, oh, it hurts too much. These are guys that play professional football, MMA guys, soccer, baseball, you name it, basketball, other sports, just collegiate athletes, bodybuilders, you name it. And I watched them all come in, take a single bump, and just give up because, oh, I can't do this. It hurts too much. I didn't think it was going to hurt. I've been in class and I've taken moves until I can't walk. Just taking hip tosses until I learn how to do it right. My hips click in and out. Like when I go to sleep at night, I have to like adjust my hip so it comes out the right way so it's not like stabbing me. And it's been like that for 4 years. But these guys that have made millions of dollars all over the world that just want to do it to say they did it, came in, took one bump, so they couldn't do it. That's a fucking poser.
I like that. I like that we're bringing the term poser into pro wrestling too.
And I think that's something that I have something there. You know what I mean? Like, because I get the mosh chant. I slap my stomach and people just say mosh. And that's just, I don't have to say it. I just slap my stomach and everybody understands. And then when I get in the ring, I look at the guy across the ring from me and I look, oh, you're a poser. And then everybody else, poser. It's, I'm very proud of that actually, because that's, I don't know, man, in the 90s, that was just, you don't want to get called a poser. Even, I mean, still in today, it's very rare, but you don't want to get called a poser. It's like, name one Metallica record. You know, like the whole thing is, oh, I love Metallica. Oh yeah, name 5 songs. It's the general idea, the metal elitist, everything. Taking.
Do you find yourself being a metal elitist in real life, IRL, as they say?
No, I love telling people about new music because I listen to everything from Knock Loose to Yob to Frozen Soul, Kublai Khan. There's a lot of hardcore there. Municipal Waste, thrash. This was popping in my head just because these are the shows I'm going to too soon.
Nice. Any new band that you discovered recently?
Yes, Frozen Soul recently, and they are just fucking heavy. Oh my god, Throne, Make Them Suffer, Paleface Swiss, a lot of Sepultura, Tsunami. Tsunami is one of those bands that I feel like came out of nowhere. They did a track with the Acacia Strain. That's how I found out about them. Oh my god, they have a viral video of them playing in a bus during Mania last year. They got like a little bus and they just pulled up on the street and they're playing inside of their bus so they can't get kicked out. Just so smart. And they just have like everybody that's there for WrestleMania, and then otherwise people coming to to see them, just a mass of people outside of a little. Oh, it's so cool. I love stuff like that when bands try to do stuff that's different, you know, to try to get to recognize and stuff. That's what you got to do in wrestling too. Same thing.
So if Gangrel comes to you tomorrow and says, I'm booking a show and I want you in the main event, and you can book any active wrestler right now to face, who are you booking a match against? What's your main event match? Realistically,
if it's not Gangrel, anybody, right?
Unrealistically, yeah. They just have to be alive and wrestling. he has a deal. He has a deal with WWE and AEW to lend them talent.
Damian Priest.
All right, I like it.
Because he is on WWE. He's probably the most metal guy that's there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, I'm not.
He's legit.
You know, Rhea Ripley would probably kick my ass. I feel like I would at least have somewhat of a chance with Damian Priest. How cool was that though to see metal at Mania?
Yeah, I loved it.
39, we had Edge come out with Slayer, which was so cool. And then this year, you know, like Motionless in White is okay. They're not super heavy, but they're not. I wouldn't call them posers. But it's just cool.
It still counts. I don't know. Like for me, as I've gotten older, like I know we're joking about posers, but like I think the term is like it's almost like I understand it in terms of a wrestling gimmick. I'm not trying to kill your gimmick. I think it's a great idea. But like, you know, like if somebody finds metal through a poser band, quote unquote, I'm as long as you found it.
Right. Like you're here. Good job getting here.
Yeah, and if you have a willingness to want to learn, that's not a poser. You know, a poser is someone, and even if like you just buy a Slayer shirt and have never heard a Slayer song, I'm okay with that too, because maybe there's someone on the street that sees that Slayer shirt and it's like, wow, you know what? I want to listen. This looks like cool artwork. Who cares? I'm all about spreading the good word of metal to non-posers and posers alike.
I like it. The main thing is just, you know, like there was always that guy that wore their Nirvana shirt but didn't know what Nirvana was. You
Mhm.
know, it's like that
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah. Of course. Yeah, like
As
the
long as
H&M shirts and all that.
yeah, as long as you have the intention of like, this is interesting. I want to learn more about it. You're not a poser. But if you're gonna be like, oh, I'm the biggest metalhead ever, the heaviest song of all time
Right,
is Jar of
right.
Flies by fucking, it's stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitionally a poser. All right, well, let's talk about what shows do you have coming up if people want to see you in person and live and have you call them a poser. Where could they see Ozzy Kilmeister?
Every Tuesday on YouTube for CCW Live. The last 2 weeks, actually, I've been on the product. Last week was a tag match with me and Skits versus the Night Riders. And then the week beforehand was me versus Madman Fulton, who was also very metal. We actually have a headbang contest in that if you want to check that out.
All right, I like that.
And then the other half of that match is two of the other greatest wrestlers we have in CCW, Jackal Stevens and Meadow from Bulgaria. He is CCW Southeastern champion. It was a title match for that. But as far as me, you can see me at pretty much every CCW show for the rest of the year. I fight through injuries. I show up no matter what. I'm not a poser. CCW runs more shows, I can confidently say, than any other promotion in America. Like,
Okay.
flat. Like, there's not even a WWE is the only company that runs more than us, flat out.
All right.
So for the month of May, so this Thursday, then I'll be in Doral at Tripping Animals Brewing. Friday, we're in Port St. Lucie for our 20th anniversary show, which of course I don't have a flyer on me. Matt Riddle's a part of that show. QT Marshall is our world champion. Brian Cage, Fonzie. We have so many people on this show. It is bonkers. That'll be in Port St. Lucie on Friday, and then on Saturday on 420, I'm in Pompano Beach at our school for Breakout, and then May has Marathon on the 3rd, Hialeah on the 4th, Kissimmee on the 10th, Tampa on the 11th, Homestead on the 16th. I will be in Nashville, Tennessee that following day on the 17th. Then the 18th is Doral, and the 25th is Pompano, and the rest of the year. That's just how it is. Dates. That's all it is.
Nice. Keeping busy, getting those reps in.
Man, that's the most important thing. We're in April. I'm already at like 30 something matches this year. I've already had more matches this year than most people have in, the whole year. And I'm very grateful for that. I don't take that lightly or squander that. I work very hard to keep myself in that area. I worked more CCW shows than anybody else last year, and I plan to do it again this year.
Nice. Well, there's plenty of opportunity for our fans to catch you live if they happen to be in the area. And people could follow you on social media. What are your handles? Yep, there you go. We'll have it in the description.
Facebook, Instagram. I'm trying to work on my TikTok. I'm a little old for that, I feel like.
I'm right there with you, buddy. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to enter the Square Circle Pit.